Hey, welcome. And in this video, we are going to go over Retell AI's inbound call webhook feature. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to implement it, what limitations it has, and some pretty good ideas on how you can use this to better personalize your voice AI calls with customers who are calling inbound. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Justin, and I like to create content as I solve problems inside of my business and share it with you. My favorite thing to do is to break this down in technical videos so that you can go out and implement it. I spend a lot of time learning some of these new features, these new technologies, and I break it down with you. Now, one favor I ask before we hop into the content is that you click that subscribe button. I recently looked at my analytics and I found out that most of you people who watch my content aren't actually subscribed. So if that's you, do me a favor and click subscribe down below and you will support me, support the channel. It lets me know that you like this content, you're finding it valuable, and encourages me to create more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the content. So inbound call webhook, it is exactly what it sounds like. Now, what does it mean practically to you? I'm going to show you exactly how we can implement this and give you some ideas, but essentially you're looking to pass the voice AI agent information before it even answers the call. So think about somebody calling into your voice AI agent. Say they call the number. If it picks up immediately, maybe it doesn't know information like the customer name, the customer email, the customer date of birth. If you wanted that information to be present before the voice AI agent answers the call, then you would utilize the inbound call webhook. Now, you can also override the agent. So let's say you have a CRM or a database, and as soon as the call comes in, maybe you have a tag in your database that says, hey, anytime this phone number calls, don't use the normal inbound agent and let's override that agent with another agent. And so that is an example of the use case for the inbound call webhook as well. Now, if we look at this graphic here, I'm not an artist, but I did my best to illustrate exactly how this works. And so let's say this is your voice AI agent and this is an inbound call. As soon as a call comes in, a webhook is fired out to an address that you determine. Now, if you don't know what a webhook is, don't worry about it. We're going to go over and it's going to make a lot more sense during our practical implementation of this. Now, a webhook is essentially just an address. It's an endpoint. You're going to send a message out, and what this inbound call webhook feature is going to do is it's going to send a message out and it's just going to wait for a response. And so once your webhook is caught, it can go out, take some actions, provide some information, and then respond back to the voice AI agent in the same manner that it received information and give it whatever information it gathered or give it some information on any actions it may have took. And as I mentioned earlier, gathering contact information is probably the most common use case for the inbound call webhook in order for you to give a more personalized experience to that caller. And so let's hop in. Let's review some documentation really fast. And so I just wanted to point out a few things. Now, I mentioned that you can override agents. Okay, we're not going to focus on overriding agents here because I don't necessarily think that is the most common use case for the inbound call webhook. But just know that if a call comes in, you have an opportunity to switch the agent ID, which means if you are in your Retell account and you have multiple agents and you know a certain phone number, when they call in, you want them to get routed to the YouTube appointment booking agent, but they called the test appointment booking agent, you can specify that agent ID in the response to the inbound webhook. But again, I'm not going to focus on that in this video. We're going to dive deep on sending dynamic variables, essentially informing the voice AI agent about the person who is calling before they answer the call. Another thing that's important to note is that the voice AI agent won't actually answer the phone until it gets a response from the webhook or 10 seconds has elapsed. And so if you see the webhook spec over here, it says it will send a post request, which we will configure our workflow to be able to support this. And it says the webhook has a timeout of 10 seconds. If within 10 seconds no success is received, the webhook will be retried up to 3 times. So in 10 seconds, if it sent the webhook and nothing happens, it'll try it 3 times and wait. And if nothing happens, then it'll just move on and answer the call without the webhook response, without the customer information in this case. So it's a fail safe so that you don't miss calls. Essentially, it'd rather have the call even if the customer information never makes it or the specific actions you want to be taken never happen. All right, over here, request payload, we're not going to focus on this too much. We'll see this whenever we build our workflow, but we are going to pay attention to the response here. And so if you see here, we have a sample response, and what we're going to do is use this later, and we are going to modify this response because, as I mentioned, we're not going to focus on the override agent ID and the metadata. I'm not going to focus on that either. We're really going to focus on these dynamic customer variables. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to demo the fact that this AI agent doesn't know anything about me when I call. So I'm going to call from a test number and I'm going to ask it if it knows my name, and it shouldn't know my name because there is nothing here that tells it. So let me go ahead and make that call. And if there's some feedback here and the AI agent wigs out, my apologies.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, do you know my name?
I'm here to help you with booking an appointment. Could you please provide me with your name and the requested appointment?
Okay, so that AI agent obviously doesn't know my name. I asked it if it knows my name and it proceeded with its objectives, okay? This is just a test prompt here. So I'm going to try something here and I'm just going to modify this prompt and I'm going to say customer information. And what I'll do here is I will say customer name. Did I spell that correctly? And in here, I'm going to use variables. So in order to refer to dynamic variables inside of the prompt, you just need to use double squiggly brackets. So an open and a close. And in here, I'm going to say customer underscore name. Now, whatever you name this variable is arbitrary. It doesn't really matter. You set it. Right now, we have no variable set. So I'm going to use this variable customer name. And let's see if by doing this, let's add another one here, customer email, double squiggly brackets, customer underscore email, and close double squiggly brackets. Now, you must note that this is case sensitive, okay? And so if you see how everything here is lowercase, whenever we configure our workflow, we're just going to make sure that we refer to it the same way. But right now, there shouldn't be any inbound webhooks configured. And this AI agent, even though we just added this customer information section, we put these little variables in here, but those variables aren't filled with anything because we haven't provided that information to the AI agent. So we should get the same result by asking it about our name. So let me go ahead and make that call.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hey, do you know my name?
I don't have your name yet. Could you please provide?
Okay, cool. So it still doesn't know my name. So we are going to fix that. And let's go ahead and open up N8N. So in this example, we are going to use N8N. If you're new to N8N, essentially, if you're new to N8N, but you've used make.com, it's very similar, except you can self-host it. So it's a lot cheaper. That's the biggest difference. But if you're new to N8N, make.com, and automations in general, then this probably isn't the video for you to start learning N8N, but it's essentially the glue between our Retell AI agent and whatever third-party service we're going to use. We're going to keep it simple in this video. Towards the end, I'll show you how to reach out to a CRM and pull information. But for the meat and potatoes of this video, you're just going to see exactly how we do it without reaching out to a CRM. So we're going to come in here and create a new workflow. And this workflow is going to be triggered by an inbound webhook, okay? And an inbound webhook, all it is just an address. It's an address where information can be sent to. And so we're going to tell Retell AI, hey, send information to this address every time a new inbound call is originated. So let's add our first step. And in here, we're going to search for webhook. And you see this webhook trigger. And remember in the documentation, we mentioned that this is a post request, what we're expecting. And so inside of our webhook, we're going to switch this method to post. And then right here where it says response, we don't want to respond immediately. What we actually want to do is respond with a webhook because we want to gather information and then send information back. So essentially by us selecting use respond to webhook node, we're, hey, catching the information. Let's just wait a second while we do some things, and then we're going to send you another message whenever we have everything ready for you. So just give us a second. Remember, we have about a 10-second window to get that done before it times out. Okay, so let's go ahead, and that's it for the webhook trigger. Now, what I want to do is I want to add a respond to webhook node. Okay, and instead of responding with the first incoming item, what I want to do is respond with JSON. And then I'm going to switch this to expression just so I can pop this out. And if I had any sort of dynamic variables, I can fill it. So that's just for later. I'm going to delete this. That's just an example. Let's go back into our documentation. and scroll down to the response example. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we're going to modify this a little bit. Now, if you're not familiar with JSON notation, I highly encourage you to use ChatGPT. All I'm going to do here is remove override agent ID, and I'm going to remove metadata, and then I'm going to add customer email in here, and then I'm going to put some information in there. But if JSON is very sensitive to formatting, and so a comma or a space or a squiggly bracket can really mess this whole thing up. I highly recommend you just copy and paste this whole blob in ChatGPT and tell it exactly what you want to do, and you shouldn't be messed up. It will return valid JSON. I'm a little bit familiar with JSON, so I'm going to go ahead and just do it live. I'm going to remove this override agent ID, and I am also going to remove metadata, which also requires me to back that out and remove the comma. Now, I will provide this entire example workflow inside of my school community automation station. It is completely free. So what I'll do is I'll export this workflow so that if you want to follow along and practically do this with me, then you can just import this into your instance of N8N and it will make a lot more sense. So let's go ahead and inside of dynamic variables, we have customer name and John Doe is fine. I'm going to put a comma in here. And then I will add customer email. And let's just add support at leadbrain.io. There you go. So as it's configured right now, if I test workflow, which means it will be listening, and I go to Retell AI and tell it where to send the webhook, then we should get information back and it should know my name and it should know my email. But before we do that, I want to show you how we can wait up to 10 seconds before the agent actually answers the call. And that's very powerful because what that gives you the opportunity to do is to go out, reach out, search your CRM, do whatever you need to do, and then return the information back in this response to webhook. And we'll do that later in the video. But what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to add a wait step just so you could see the behavior of what happens whenever we just wait. And let's go ahead and wait 8 seconds, not the full 10 seconds. So we don't want it to time out. We do want it to get the actual response. But what I expect to happen is that the phone is just going to ring for 8 seconds and we will see this whole thing play out. All right. So first thing we need to do is pop into the webhook. Let's copy this address because we need to give it to Retell AI to tell it where to reach out to when an inbound call comes in. So come in here. The old inbound webhook setting used to be inside of the agent, but if you try to paste it in here, it's going to tell you, hey, you need to go to the phone number because we moved it. So you can go to the phone number and then you check this box, add inbound webhook, and just paste your webhook URL. Once you click away, you'll see it's been saved. And now all we're going to do is make sure that our webhook is listening. So I'm clicking test and it says we're waiting for the call. So let's go ahead and make a phone call. And it should ring for 10 seconds. 8 seconds. There you go. So you saw it rang, right? And I stopped it before it responded because I just wanted you to see what happens if you put a wait step. And that's just to simulate like you doing actions like reaching out to your CRM. Let's go ahead and remove this wait step. Let's go ahead and actually let's pop this open and see what information is provided in that webhook. So as soon as the call came in, Retell reached out to the webhook, the address that we provided, and it provided you all of this information. And so if we look in here, we just have a lot of metadata, but then we also have information like the agent that it called, the phone number that they called from. This is important because maybe we want to look up this phone number inside of our CRM and provide the agent with more information, right? In this case, we're going to keep it simple. I have some static information that I placed in here, like my name and my email address. And so let's go ahead and listen again, and let's make this call. And I'm going to ask the agent this time if it knows my name. Let's see if it worked.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, do you know my name?
I don't have your name yet. Could you please share it with me?
Very interesting. So it didn't know my name. I wonder why that didn't work. Let's pop in here and see exactly why that wouldn't have worked. So here we have a variable called customer_name, and then we have a variable customer_email. So let's pop into our AI agent and make sure that those variables match. And it doesn't, right? So something happened here and it didn't actually save. Our prompt didn't save. So let's come in here and say customer information, customer_name. Customer email. Terrible at typing. So I leave these mess ups in here because when you're configuring your automations and your voice AI agents, you are going to go through the same troubleshooting steps. So I don't think it's necessarily valuable for me to cut this stuff out. I'm glad this happened. So we're going to actually make sure we click the save button this time, and we're going to go ahead and call that one more time. Before we do that, we want to make sure that our webhook is listening.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, do you know my name?
Yes, your name is John Doe.
Do you happen to have my email address already?
Your email address as support@leadbrain.io.
There you go. Extremely powerful. Now it knows information based on the webhook that I provided. Now, one thing I want to show you before I hop into actually querying 𝐓𝐤𝐦𝐻𝐬, which is our CRM, to actually look up like real contact information. What I'd like to do is show you how you would run this if you were in production mode. You notice during the testing, I kept having to click test workflow, which isn't practical because if you want this agent to be live and working 24/7, you can't be there to click test workflow. So what you would want to do is come into here and click production URL and copy that production URL. And you would want to come into your AI agent settings, the phone number settings, and then post that production or paste that production URL in there, click away, make sure it's saved. And now if you just click activate, and we should make sure we save. Now, anytime a call comes in, you should see it happen over here in executions. So we're just going to go ahead and test that real quick. I figure if you're not using 𝐓𝐤𝐦𝐻𝐬 as a CRM, you may be less interested in the rest of the video. And so I wanted to sort of complete the example here. But let's go ahead and call this just so you could see the execution work.
Hello, how can I help you today? Hi.
There you go. So if you come over here, that our production URL was hit because we have an active workflow. And so that is what it is. So we're going to go back and I'm going to continue using my test workflow URL because I am going to set up a pretty neat system of actually reaching out to our CRM in order for us to pass that information to the voice AI agent so that it's extremely powerful. So it just depends on what customer calls. We can provide the information relevant to that customer. So I'm here inside of a demonstration sub account inside of my 𝐓𝐤𝐦𝐻𝐬 CRM. And inside here, you see we have a contact with this phone number and Justin Melendez, and we have an email address in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the API documentation. Matter of fact, we're not going to pull up the API documentation. Instead, I am pretty sure I can do this from an example. It may just be more simple. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is inside here, instead of just going straight to respond to webhook, we're going to come in here. We're going to modify this in a second, but let's go ahead and add a step. And here we're going to select an HTTP request node. This gives us an opportunity to reach out to an external system and collect some information. And so I'm referencing some notes here. So forgive me if I am moving back and forth, but what we're going to look at here is we're going to make a post request. Let's rename this to the search contacts. So we're going to make a post request to this endpoint. And if you have no clue how to use APIs or anything about the 𝐓𝐤𝐦𝐻𝐬 API, there is support documentation. I'll drag it over here. So this, if you just Google 𝐓𝐤𝐻𝐬 version 2 API documents, you will see here that these are the documentations that define everything we're about to do. So if I search contacts right here, I am just following the information and the guidance that's provided in here. Okay, I'm just referencing some notes so that it's more streamlined for you. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to come in here and authentication. I am going to select a generic credential type, header authentication. And then I think here I just have a test credentials here. It says Brad test. Essentially, this is authentication. So if you're new to 𝐓𝐤𝐻𝐬 and you don't know how to integrate things privately, if you come into settings, go into private integrations, you have all of these keys that you could set. So essentially here, not sure if and maybe the test that I created may or may not be here. If anything, we'll troubleshoot. But if you wanted to create additional keys, you could inside of here. But for now, we already have that created. So let's come in here and under headers, what we want to do is we are going to send the version header with a capital V. And then we're going to copy and paste this date exactly as it appears in the documentation. And then under the body, we're going to send body parameters. And then we're going to send a body parameter named query. And in this query field, what I want to do is essentially I want to search for contacts with the phone number, the from phone number essentially. And so if I come down here, we have inbound webhook, and this is the from phone number. And I'm just going to drag and drop that in here. And you see it pretty much put the variable with the squiggly brackets, but it filled in the information, the phone number that I called from. Next thing I'm going to do is provide the location ID. Let's see, location ID. And my location ID should be in my settings. This is my location ID right here in the business profile. And I will just paste that. And page limit. I wonder if I can get away without a page limit. Let's see if we can get away without a page limit. So let me go ahead and test this workflow. What I'm going to do here is pin this data so that we don't have to keep calling the voice AI agent. So that just allows us to reuse the same data while we're creating this workflow. And so what I'm going to do here is I will test this. And it looks like we have an error. Okay, it says the request is invalid. Let me see. I think I have to use this page limit body parameter. So let's do that. And we're going to say that this is, I'm going to switch this to expression, squiggly brackets, number 1. Okay, this just means that I'm only getting one page back. And the reason I'm using number is because inside of the page specs, as it's shown inside of the documentation, it is expecting a number. So page limit is expecting a number and it is required. So let's see if that works now. Where are we? There we go. Let's test this. And there you go. So we successfully made a search to our CRM and it passed back all this information. So we have the contact ID, we have a ton of metadata, and then let's see, yep, we have the email, and then we have the first and last name. Do we have a full name in there? Let's see, no, but we can create the full name just by piecing together the first and last name. Perfect. So we're actually reaching out to our CRM. As soon as this webhook is called, we're searching for contacts based on that phone number. And now we're going to modify our response. Let's pop this open. Let's remove John Doe and give it that information so that the AI agent knows exactly who we have. So what I'm going to do here is paste the first name in between these quotes. And then after the close squiggly brackets, I'm going to just give it a little space. And then I will paste the last name. So if you see here, it's rendering our example. So the customer name is Justin Melendez. And then the customer email is provided here as well. And so I will just drag and drop email. And there it is. So now what I want to do is unpin this information because we're going to make a call and I'm actually going to test if this is working. So let's go ahead and test this workflow and let's make a call from our example account.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, do you know my name?
Yes, your name is Justin Melendez. How can I assist you today? Would you like to book an appointment?
What's my email address?
Your email address is justin@leadbrain.io.
That's pretty cool. And just to prove to you that it will work, what I'm going to do is change my name inside of my CRM. I'm not going to change my name inside of the N8N workflow, but let's just say I am John Hernandez now, and my email is john@leadbrain.io, and I'm going to save this contact. And let's come back over here, make sure we are listening, and make a test call one more time.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, do you know my name?
Yes, your name is John Hernandez. How can I assist you today?
What's my email address?
Your email address is john@leadbrain.io.
Okay, so you notice that information is already stored in the prompt. It's not going back and forth. I'm not like restarting the webhook. We got that information as soon as the webhook came in, we passed it to it, and now that prompt is now personalized and informed. So that's it. I'll say that this information or this technique is extremely powerful. If you come in here, you can personalize, you can use these variables inside of the welcome message, so you can personalize how the agent answers the phone. And so you can do a bunch of things. Now, that is an example using Go High Level. If you're using a different CRM, you would just have to research their API if they have one, and you can reach out and query that CRM to provide that information to the agent. If you're using like a Google Sheet, there's an API for that. Yeah, Pretty cool. Hopefully this video was valuable. If you're new to the channel and you're not subscribed, I please ask you to subscribe. That's how you can support this channel. And till next time, see ya.